love that I've met my sister,
Absolutely.
my soul sister, like literally.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's beautiful. Your energy is just amazing. As soon as you stepped into the space, there was a vibrational lift. So thank you for bringing that light to the set. And yes, we do somehow feel like kindred soul sisters. And we were just talking about how magical it is to meet our tribe, right?
My
What a
goodness.
gift that is as well.
And because we're so busy, we
Mm.
hardly get time to really meet,
Yes.
you know, in general. And
Yes.
when you meet your kindred soul sister, then it's something else. It's something we've had goosebumps since we said hi.
Absolutely. And I think just on that topic of connecting with people in this world in such a way where, you know, you can meet somebody who is a soulmate, soul tribe, sister, brother, and just you can tell the difference between a soul that you've somehow walked in another realm with at some point, or that some magical spiritual contract exists between the two of you. And it feels so different when you are aware, right?
It's magical. That's the word you're using, and I love it. But also, I think it makes us remember something about ourselves, the likeness. We are all the same. We've all walked this path. Yes, right now we may have different skin tones. We may have the female gender, but there's something that we have lived before now, and we are reliving. So it's just English does not have the words to describe what we are experiencing.
Absolutely, it doesn't. It doesn't. And so often, energy and vibration can't be captured in the English language. And we have to truly just honor the experience of the bond and the connections that stand out in our lives and that are meant to serve some kind of higher purpose. And for sure, in another life, we may have, you know, worn different bodies and different hair, but the essence of that energy is still somehow resonating, right?
Yeah,
It's powerful.
absolutely.
And we obviously share coming from THO in some weird way. The lineage has worked its way through that organization to bring us together, which is a gift. So I'm thankful. But I would love for us to explore this notion of being this spiritual warrior in, you know, the new age of being a woman. I often think of, you know, healers in general as you know, being put into a box that sometimes is under the wrong label, because all women are in fact healers if they remember their true essence, and connect with their true power. I find that, you know, intuition and being psychic and being able to connect with the spirit realm, while I understand, you know, certain psychics and healers and even people that have to be put into the traditional healers box, um, might have connected with their gifts or remember them more strongly. I truly believe every woman has the power to tap into that self.
Look, for me, I like to take things back. We are where we are now, where we undermine those who are gifted and live it out overtly. We are where we are, where the titles are very boxing. We are where we are, and this is a global phenomenon. It's not just South Africa; it's everywhere. The new age kids are saying they are woke, you know. We are where we are because of our historical disposition as a people. Put aside race. As a people, we've been through so much spiritual oppression, and I think, for lack of a better word, right? And spiritual oppression came in when people realized that if I'm a megalomaniac and I'm going to rule the people and I'm going to make the money, I need to sublime what they feel spiritually and take away their power, because power starts in the spirit. So it's men and women who were dispossessed of who they are spiritually. Before they took lands, they took the spiritual power. Before they conquered the woman, they conquered the man. So we can look at Africa, we could look at South America, we can look at Australia, America. And you will see the thread. It is the same thread. They take away your spirituality, they take away your men, and then they say your practices are pagan. So who wants to be associated with being a heathen, a pagan? It's all negative labels. So now we're in a place where women are trying to heal, but they're healing under the guise, so that here and now, under the guise of, I'm emancipated, feminism, I can do it, I'm independent. Those are also part of the ploy to just make you spiritually corrupt, because there is no human being who's independent. We are interdependent. You can't be independent without the spirit.
Yes.
So this whole woke movement is saying, I can do it. I love some of the elements, but it's also still killing us.
Yes.
And as you were saying, I mean, the womb, right? Every woman has the healer within themselves. But if the womb has been traumatized, then everything that will come from the womb is going to live out in trauma.
It's going to be fragmented. Absolutely.
You know, I'm reminded of a scripture that speaks of what happened to the women of Israel. So I like going back to history and looking at us now. So the women of Israel were taken, and it was written that, look, these women, you know, they give birth too fast, so we want to kill their sons because we don't know where the savior is coming from, right? And then the midwives were given, you know, the midwives of the Egyptians told, listen, you must hurry. Every time they give birth, kill the child. Because you'll know. But then there was a miracle that happened there. The Spirit came in and said, you will no longer travail too long in childbirth. It's in Genesis. And these women, the midwives, went back and reported that the woman gave birth so fast that they couldn't kill the children. And they were strong afterwards, and they ran away with their children. So the womb got healed through spirit.
Yes.
And that generation was able to do great exploits.
Yes.
Because, I mean, the three major books, the Torah, the Quran, and the Bible, all have the story. Hence I say scripture.
Yes.
They all have the story of how women were able to give birth so fast. And now we're in labor for 10 days because the womb is not healed.
Yes.
And our men are not healed. So we all have healers.
Yes.
Kate, we are all are healers.
I mean, this applies to men as much as women, more so, possibly. The reality, I think, and I love what you spoke about in terms of just women remembering, you know, the spiritual oppression aspect, and men as well, that part of that political ploy to conquer was to divide and conquer, but specifically to divide us from our spirituality was a very intrinsic part of that process, very meticulously well constructed and thought out. And it is so real in terms of how disintegrated we've become to self, to our higher selves, to that spiritual connection with other spirits, with our ancestors, with where we've come from,
with nature,
even as a spiritual sentient being in this world. And you know, I often talk about nature being this powerful spiritual sentient force that we need to understand better how to commune with, because they are our ally. And so I love the idea of really just, you know, becoming conscious of what it means to understand our spiritual oppression and overcome that. Because unless we become aware of it, we're not going to tackle it. And so many of the woke, as you call it, the woke generation, I think have adopted a Western way of understanding what success and empowerment means in this modern day, which is unfortunately laced with a lack of self-understanding and a lack of true connection with self. Because once again, if I'm embodying a more Western male way of being as a woman, which certainly was the way I went about doing things when I started my business, you know, to fit in.
Yeah.
To wear the power suits and the stilettos and
To have the attitude.
And to call myself a boss babe and all of those good things. I bought into the marketing hype about what it means to be a strong, successful businesswoman in this day and age. That you have to lower somehow your standards as a soul, you know, and lose parts of yourself. And I think the challenge today is going to be, how do we remember who we are as holistic spirit beings in this body and really walk in a true integrated way with self, with spirit, to be that successful businesswoman, but to still honor yourself as a mother, as a woman, as a man, as a spiritual being, connected with your ancestors, with your spirit self, and not shy away from being true to who you actually are. There should be no more stigma around that. We should be fighting to break those stigmas and those stereotypes that were placed upon us if we're going to overcome.
You know, you put it very well that we are spirit beings. Now, maybe that's where we should start. We should start conscientizing ourselves and those around us and those that we raise, so our children, our nieces and nephews. You are spirit, you are not flesh.
Correct.
I think that's where we just lose it. Because the first thing we want to do is feed the flesh, and the flesh is insatiable. You cannot satisfy it.
Exactly.
You cannot satisfy the flesh. And the flesh will always be easily influenced.
Yes.
So we have been influenced by education. In everything there's good and bad, so the yin and the yang, right?
Yes. Yes.
Education has influenced us and said, you need to study and get a qualification.
Exactly.
Feeding the flesh. You need to excel in your career. Feeding the flesh. You need to drive the latest car. Feeding the flesh. You need to,
Wear the latest brands.
acquire. Feeding the flesh. And all the while forgetting the spirit.
Correct.
So what does it profit a man to win the world and lose the soul?
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
Because you don't take anything with you when you leave this realm.
Not even that. You are always empty when you are in this realm. Like,
so true.
Let's think of people that we know, and yes, we're generalizing.
Yes.
We know there are tags, right, for people, psychological tags. You'll find that there are people who are told that you've got a sexual disorder. I'm making a very simple example.
Yes.
Sexual disorder, term nymphomaniac. So you always want to have sex. That's a flesh void that could have been filled if you knew about your spiritual self.
Exactly.
And then you'd know why your flesh is crying
Yes.
for a connection.
Correct.
So you can do the act now. When you're done, the void is still there.
Yes.
The act an hour later, you're done, the void is still there. People who overeat, same thing. So I'm eating now and I'm feeling excited and I'm happy because food is good. I'm still full, but I still want to eat.
Yes.
2 minutes later, because there's a void.
Exactly.
When you don't know spiritual self and you're not conscious that this body is just a vehicle to be in this realm, then you will forever be looking for something to fill it. Going back to corporate, you were talking about corporate and saying, you wanted to be a boss babe. How do we marry being a spiritual person and corporate? Because corporate is totally away from the spiritual sense. It's away from it. The culture, the dress code, the what. It's very separated. However, once you as an individual know that you're a spiritual being, you are able to do your work and excel in your work and be proud of your work without compromising your spirit self.
Exactly.
You wake up and you speak truth. You do truth. You are diligent. You are healing. Even as you embark on your work day to day. You are truthful. You are light.
You are whole.
You are whole.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I am doing in my work through corporate consulting is precisely that. To go in and start to give constructive business risk management advice, believe you me, on how to fully understand treating employees and leading from the place of the soul of the business, I call it. Because you are giving birth to a creation, and that business has its own life force energy. And if you understand the souls within it, and if you work from that space of truly understanding from an energy point of view, the different vibrations and how they work either in harmony or disharmony within a business organization, you can truly transform that business from a very powerful place and then heal all kinds of things like stress, anxiety, address issues of performance and non-productivity in the workplace, or addiction in the workplace, sexual harassment in the workplace. All of these conditions, as you call it, that come up that have different labels, that sometimes cannot be addressed with a psychologist or a training program. It's just not insufficient. And I do believe that if we start to understand the deeper level of, the humans who drive that business, we can truly transform, community business in a whole new way. So I really hope that Africa, and the world is ready to start truly just existing from a deeper place, even within business, even within politics. One of the things, speaking of politics, that I have this deep wish to do is to cleanse all our leaders. If I could get them in a room,
ambitious,
smoke them out. I'm doing it virtually though.
Ambitious,
very ambitious.
Love it.
As a person who is now doing their utmost to live consciously and in the light. I would not elect leaders with a lower vibrational energy who are operating from fear and anger and insecurity
and greed,
right? And shame and all of those things that are the motivators for domination, power, control, and oppression. It's narcissism on a mass scale. That's the energy that we're dealing with. And without question, if you look at the spiritual narrative behind the politics of our world, the conscious have given their power away to the unconscious to lead us. And so a big part of that worldwide energy shift and revolution that's taking place, and I'm waiting for ours, because that righteous warrior energy needs to step into those that have been oppressed, all native cultures. And this is, ourselves, Africa, Native Americans, you name it. We are truly in a time where we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, why have we given our power away as a collective to the unconscious? And a lot of the light leaders are really the ones I feel who need to take that lead and be the ones who lead in asking this question, and then exemplify what righteous warrior energy, embodies in this day and age, in order for us to get to that place where our leaders are in fact conscious, are in fact light beings. They embody light, they walk with light, and therefore, relate to humanity, lead with humanity, protect this earth as we should be earth keepers.
Kate, in terms of you wanting, desiring
that dream world.
to
dream a new earth.
Yeah, to cleanse leaders. And we're not only just talking political leaders here, we're talking religious leaders,
Absolutely.
traditional leaders. I believe the work of those who have tapped into their spiritual selves, those who are light workers, those who are healers in all sense, I believe that it's our responsibility to come together.
Absolutely.
Come together to edify each other, to help sharpen each other, because iron sharpens iron, and then come together to do a spiritual work of cleansing. So earlier, off camera, we were just having a discussion, and I said, I'm excited because I am starting to meet more people who are the last remnant. And what the last remnant for me is, it's the last people for this generation, this era, on this realm, who are going to take up the baton and be willing to sacrifice everything, go up to mountains and fast and pray, pour libation, speak to nature to make a change. There is no leader who is operating from fear, from greed, from being a megalomaniac, who will just relinquish their leadership.
Oh, absolutely not. It's going to be a battle.
But that battle can be won if the last remnant comes together. However, we have a challenge as well, because others are parading in sheepskin, but they're actually wolves, and they're calling themselves light workers, healers.
Absolutely.
So that's where
the charlatans have always been.
And those are the ones who are jeopardizing the last remnant from coming together. And then society as well is also saying, hey, listen, Kate, Nonkululeko is black, you are Indian. and Nonkululeko will quote things that you. So there's even a separation amongst us as light workers.
Yes.
So if we come together and remind each other that spirituality is one, and let's use spirituality to cleanse our society, I think a change will be done.
I am so much, a part of that change with like-minded, I call them like energy souls, because there is already that oneness formation happening. Even if you just look at us, how Spirit orchestrated our meeting, it's powerful, it's real, and it's happening. It is happening without question. And I feel, very ready for the cause that I know, the Light Council has tasked me with. And I also know, I did, in fact, a talk about on one of my solos on my socials, in fact, about this topic of how do you distinguish between true light workers and charlatans, or possibly even light workers who might have certain gifts of being able to channel spirit and be psychic. And so the public, who are largely ignorant about how the spiritual world works, would be very enamored and taken by that as, someone to go to for a source of healing, but who might themselves actually not have healed yet, or who might possibly be deeply unconscious in terms of not integrating their spirituality in their everyday life.